Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Parents, what if we could give you the power to transform your family into something absolutely amazing?
A family where everyone is healthy, gets along, loves Jesus, and has great purpose in life.
Hey, let us flip your thinking to unlock the power God has given you to create your own Crazy Cool family.
Hey, this is Jeff Zog from the Dad Awesome podcast. I love the Crazy Cool family, and specifically I hopped into Basecamp, all of these resources, the video resources, the specific guides that let me put the names of my daughters and my wife and just showing me visually, hey, am I making progress? What areas can I attend more to? So I'm so thankful. I want to encourage you guys to hop into Basecamp, sign up, dive into those first intro videos. It's been so helpful for my family.
Hey guys, welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Hello, honey.
Are you calling all of them honey?
No, I'm calling you honey. Hello and welcome to the podcast with me. We're in our fight series. We've been talking about this all year. Just fight for your family. Fight against all the apathy that's going on. Fight against, just
so many things. There's so many things to fight for. I just love the word fight itself, because to me, the word fight brings energy. It brings up this welling up of, I'm gonna.
And since you used the word energy, that's what we're going to talk about today. We find this question happening a lot. I have small children. I have
that have a lot of energy.
Yes. And we wonder why that they gave the small children all the energy and didn't give it to the parents. And what was God thinking when he did that? But whether it be, or you've got grade school or middle school kids with all kinds of activities, it seems like sometime around high school, maybe they quit wanting to be around you as much. And so maybe there starts to be more of the empty nester deal. But for sure, with those young kids, we get parents all the time saying, how do you have energy? You guys had 7 kids. How'd you do it? I mean, we get that question. Don't have any idea.
They played with each other.
Exactly.
We intertwined their energy.
Well, but it does, today when we talk about energy, one of the things, and fighting for your family and fighting for energy, that's a great, you put a different spin on it. They played with each other, something that maybe people wouldn't think about. Hopefully today we're going to give you some things to make you rethink how you do family in order to, so often, I will be playing a video game or I will be trying to do something and I'll just keep trying the same thing over and over and I keep failing at it over and over. So,
because you keep going at it from the same direction.
Strategy, the same thing.
Yeah.
So today we want to just maybe throw some things out at you to just help you rethink things, because if you rethink things, maybe you approach it with a different strategy and you figure out a new way to fight, a new way to win the game. And what kind of game are we trying to win today? We're trying to have energy. What video game are we playing? We're trying to play this video game where the parents come in with all kinds of energy and we're happy and we're joyful and everybody's loving each other. And that doesn't happen a lot for parents. When you're talking to parents, what are you seeing? What are you seeing from them?
Yeah, no, I definitely see that parents are exhausted. And I remember being exhausted as a young parent. And I remember wrestling with God saying, okay, I feel like that you've got it backwards. Lord, I feel like that you created it so that as the parent, I should have more energy and the child should have less energy because I'm the one that's in charge. I'm the one that's controlling the situation. I'm the one that's having to do all the things. Yet the child is running circles around me, especially if I was like our daughter Madeline has got a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and is growing another baby. So she's using all of her energy to grow this other baby in her tummy. And so when she FaceTimes me, she's sitting on the couch. And the 2-year-old, the 3-year-old, and the 1-year-old are running laps around the couch.
I remember we used to have lots of small children, and we would go out to eat. And there would be this time at the end of the dinner.
Right, yes.
When they would just start running around the restaurant. And,
yes.
And we were trying to visit and having a good time with whoever we were out with or whatever. And it was like, okay, time to go. Yes.
It's time. We actually did that just this weekend with our grandson. We had lunch with him and just us. And we were visiting. And then all of a sudden he gets down out of our lap, out of the chair, and starts walking around the restaurant. And we both look at each other and we're like, time to go.
But and so And I guess before we get into, some things to help you rethink things, the problem's real.
Right.
The children
Yes.
really do have
Yes.
more energy.
Right.
There is, you are doing things that are making you tired. You are the parent.
Yeah.
You have to do more. I mean, their lives are pretty carefree.
Well, and that was my revelation that I feel like that the Lord showed me, was that the reason that children have so much more energy than us adults is because they play all day. They are carefree and they play, and that's their purpose. That's literally what they do. That's their job, to play, if you will.
And so you're saying that let me ask the question, are you saying that if we played more, we would have more energy?
Well, that's exactly how
You think
I
it's
see
because
this.
we're stressed and we're,
Because we label everything we do as work. Then work is hard, labor. We labor in vain, if you will. And so the Lord tells us to be more like a child. So what would it look like if we were more like a child? And so some of the things that I would do, because reality is we still have to work. We still have to do the things. And so when we talk about bringing different energy into it, thinking about energy differently, this is a huge mind shift that I had to have along the way, is I had to think about work more like play than work. And so I had to take the things that I was doing every day and make them be more like play. So for example, unloading the dishwasher, we'd set the timer, and all of us would unload the dishwasher and we'd try to beat the timer, or sorting laundry or doing the laundry. We would play a game and somebody had to, find all the shirts while another person ran around the house, or so we just created, we made the work happen because the work had to happen, but we tried to bring fun into it because the fun is what brings the energy.
And even laughter.
Oh, definitely. Laughter. Yeah, that's a good one.
And so,
Yeah.
and what that might mean is things don't get done in a linear path.
And they might not be at the quality that you want them to be. Maybe the plates are where the cups are supposed to be and the forks are where the spoons are supposed to be.
Yeah, but I love that. I think that creating energy, just doing things in a fun way at home. And because I think another thing that happens with parents a lot, and I know it happens to me, and it doesn't happen to me as much anymore because I don't have little kids anymore, but
oh my gosh, you guys. Dawn is the funnest pops. When the little boys
That's my
are
grandfather
here.
name.
Yes, when the little boys are here, Pops, they say, Pops, come play. And he does. Whatever it is they're playing, whether it's cars or basketball.
yeah. But
You're an important guy, wouldn't you say? I mean, you're an important
I'm
guy
not
and
that
you
important.
have a lot to do, but yet you stop and play.
Well, it is. And I think that when I had little kids, I remember that I would come home and the home would stress me out. And so therefore, and it was an energy drain.
Right.
And so one of the things I want to tell parents, so I don't know if I'm an important guy or not, but I do love to play with my grandkids now. I think as a grandparent, you take a different, and they don't
I just think that sometimes as parents, we think we're too important to play.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to reintroduce.
It's beneath us.
Yeah. So, we don't have time for it.
Yeah.
And actually, you must make time for
Yeah.
it, not just to interact and play with your kids, but even next level to go play. I mean, that's one of the best things that Don did for himself along the way, is he would take time you would go out to the barn and you would work out or read a book or even watch a show for a little while. Now our kids were a little bit older then, so when they were little,
I think even
usually didn't let you out of my sight.
Playing with your little kids is energizing. I mean, when you get down on their level and play with them, but
and join their world.
And I just feel like that so often I would be exhausted because I was just bringing stress into the home. I was bringing stress. I would see the home as a stressful situation rather than just the joy of family. And when I would flip it and I would say, wow, I get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
get
good.
to
That's a good
have
way to flip it.
3 daughters or 4 daughters or whatever it was at the time. And wow, God's blessed me with with my job, and and I have that attitude of gratitude, if you will. Then it gave me more energy. And so that's one of the things that I like to flip in my own life is when I'm feeling low energy, it's like to flip it to where, oh my goodness, with gratitude and with
good.
just look at and just really maybe it is a time to play. So often it seems like that what God wants us to do, there's a whole philosophy of life really that God says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. In Isaiah, he says, my ways are not your ways. And so often when we feel one way, it's almost like we should have opposite theology. In that we flip it. If we're down, if we're
That's
discouraged, we need to have gratitude.
Yeah.
If we're lacking energy, we need to, go have fun, and do something fun. We were just talking about this the other day, Suzanne, is that so often that, we were going somewhere and Suzanne's like, I don't want to go. And so I just kind of said, okay, great. You don't have to go. But then later she goes, you know what? If you would have just said you should go and kind of pushed me into it, I would have gone and had a good time. And I was like, wow, I cannot win
women.
but what I'm saying in that is that's just a little bitty example, but just doing things that go against our feelings and our norm. A lot of times, if they're godly things, then they will flip us into energy.
Yeah, and so I love that. That is so true. To laugh, to play, to have fun, to rethink a situation, to think like, just see, okay, God, to invite God into it. God, what do you think about this? Where's the energy that you have? And then some more practical ways to do that too, which I found to be hugely successful when we had small children, was to get outside. I mean, and we just wrapped up winter time, and it was cold here a lot in Texas, but outside has got. It's a magical place because it has a lot of energy, but it also takes energy from small children, as they run around and play. If you want to wear your child out, then go to the park, go outside, play outside. I always saw the day broken up into two parts, the morning and the afternoon. And then there was a break with a nap in between. And so my goal was to wear them out till nap time and then wear them out again until bedtime. And one of my key ways to do that was to get outside. Not just for them though, moms and dads, for you too. I mean, Don is an outside advocate. He loves being outside. The sunshine, vitamin D, the activities that you can do out there. I mean, nothing like getting really dirty and sweaty as a little kid. They love that. So
being outside.
Add water, dirt, they love it.
Yeah. And it could be throwing a ball. It could be, playing with rocks. I mean, our grandkids, they go out by our barn and they just love the little rock pile.
Right.
And, rocks and trucks.
It's better than sand.
Yeah.
Sand is a mess.
But yes, exactly. But, it doesn't have to be, it could be, so often our kids had chalk and a driveway.
Right.
And that was it. And they would, or it was water. If it was summer, just a water hose, out in the, they just got wet and they got happy. We didn't have a pool then. Mm-hmm. Or it could be playing basketball or whatever we have, kicking the ball around. It just, whatever it is to get them out and going. And when you say too that, especially, if you have boys, boys can wear a mama out.
Oh, most definitely.
And so just getting them, we have a friend of ours that had 5 boys. And she would just run those kids ragged.
She had the best relay games. I mean, the absolute best relay games that they played every day. Okay, up and down the stairs 3 times. Okay, around the house, around the island 3 times, just all the different things. And even when I was talking to Madeline the other day and True was just bouncing off the walls, I'm like, Madeline, go have him run around the couch 5 times. I mean, you just have to do that with boys because they do have a lot of energy. And it's a beautiful thing. And they're created that way. And we have to see it like that that's how they're wired. And they're created to go out and conquer the world someday. And so they need that energy. And so mamas, instead of letting that energy wear us out and us be annoyed by that energy, how are we going to harness it? And how are we going to use it? And how are we going to focus it so that it is working for the child and for the direction that we want it to go and not taking from us?
And for the family too.
Yeah.
Because when that's happening and they are running and playing, and another thing I think parents, so often we are so tied into our house has to look great and it has to be, and we do want to take care of our things. There's a godly principle in that. But man, when you have little kids and when you have younger kids, especially through grade school or whatever, the house needs to be a place where they can play, because otherwise if everything's all strict and I just feel like it creates stress and it creates it just takes away, it's an energy. And there's a difference between using energy well and being exhausted because you're depressed or you're tired or whatever. I think those things, that's when when the home is stressful and everything's got to be really, taken care of.
Right.
Then I think that creates an atmosphere that is draining.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the our energy.
She wants to talk about this.
Yeah, is not so much taken away by our kids, but it can be. We actually are draining our own energy by being stressed. And I remember feeling that way so many times when the house was chaotic, because to me, when the house was chaotic, it made me feel chaotic because there were so many little people that also had it chaotic. And so one of the systems that I put into place was we would clean up twice a day. We would clean up before nap time and we would clean up before bedtime. Mm-hmm. And so when I had those times set in place, then I wasn't stressed about it all morning. Like, oh my gosh, the house is becoming a mess. It's a mess. And oh my gosh, you can't make it. Don't make another mess. Don't make another mess. We'll never get it all cleaned up. And it was like, no, we will be cleaning it up at 12:45, before our 1 o'clock, rest time. And so mess away. Oh, you sure you want to do that? You want to make that mess too? Okay, we're going to have to clean up at 12 now because you made such a big mess.
And it leads to, God's such a God of, he's a God of order, but it's like we don't want our house to always be a mess. But we also don't want to go over the top and say it can never be touched.
Well, and we're nagging at our kids all the time, or we're beating ourselves up. So that's the part I want to go back to is stressful. So think about that. What is it that is stressful? What's creating stress in your life that's robbing you of your energy? Yeah, I had to really think about that.
Well, but even then, okay, so what you did was you set up a system,
right,
that lets you.
John loves systems.
But you did, and it was just set up to where, okay, we know, and it doesn't have to happen every day. That's the deal of a system. It's not going to be perfect,
right?
But because some days it didn't get cleaned up before nap time, or
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially if we went outside and needed naps needed to happen. Oh, there's lots of reasons why it didn't happen.
But the system itself gave you some strength
and alleviated the stress,
right?
Because
exactly.
I could lean on the system. And what was beautiful is that a lot of times our children's behavior robs us of our energy because we're constantly on them to do what we want them to do, but they want to do what they want to do, and so they push back. And so then we have to use our energy to get them to behave how we want them to. But if you put the systems in place, then they're going against the system, and you can make the system the back. I know this is what we do. This is what we do.
We agreed to this.
We agreed to this exactly.
Well, and I think it's we're talking about today how to get over the energy blahs, how to fight for energy in your home, and it's so much of it is. What I say is let your yes be yes and your no be no, is how you choose things. Systems is a part of that, but how you choose what you're going to do. So often, for example, you may be frustrated because the kid is spilling red Kool-Aid on your white couch.
Right.
Well, what if we don't give them red Kool-Aid?
And
so you set up the system to where so often I think we set ourselves up to fail.
Right.
Because we don't, for example, we don't take care of our own selves as parents. Well, we don't have any energy, and so because we're not taking care of ourselves, it's the opposite of what we think, I don't have time to take care of myself. You don't have time not to take care of yourself.
Right.
Because that's creating something that's going to align with your values, that's going to help you have more energy.
And part of that too is taking care of yourself is taking care of each other. I mean, so husband and wife, you got to look out for that. I know there's so many times that Don would come home and he would just see the look in my eye that I was just about to bolt, pack my bags and go stay in a hotel. And he would be
it wasn't always because of me.
No, and it wasn't usually ever because of him. It was because of the day.
I was
it was because of the Kool-Aid all day long or the whatever all day long, because I hadn't wrapped my head around playing and just working all the time. It was worn out. And so he'd be like, hey, babe, hey, kids, come out in the backyard. Honey, why don't you stay in here and just be by yourself for a while? And,
spend a lot of nights at Chick-fil-A.
And so just know that, dads, as you come home, that moms need to be rescued. Or moms, the same thing. Dads might have come home from a long day of stressful work, and the last thing he needs is your stress and the kids' stress. And so maybe you need to even step in and say, hey, babe, would it work out if I, took the kids and we had a picnic, or what, can we, or let's go play, or let's, I can't, there was so many times we would go play in the pool or something like that.
Well, and I think I see a lot of parents that also don't give or receive help from their family and other people too.
It's a good one.
get you some babysitters. I mean, be willing to. Your kid's not gonna, chances are nothing's gonna happen. I mean, there's great odds. Be responsible with your babysitters, but I mean, we would babysit other people's. I mean, we would trade off with families. Hey, y'all bring your kids over, and then we'll bring ours over. Or we have family close by. Some people do, some people don't. And we had an army of babysitters that we used throughout to get away sometimes.
Yeah, and I tell young moms all the time that you will love your children so much more if you take a break from them. Because then you are energized. This is what I think where moms get the most exhausted is because we cannot complete a thought because we're constantly interrupted. Mommy, can I have some water? Mommy, can I have a snack? Mommy, I need to go potty. Mommy. And so it's like we never get to finish a thought. And so I just remember there were so many times that I would just go wander Target. I might not come home with anything at all, but the fact that I could go down the aisle and think, do I want that pillow? I don't know. Maybe I want that pillow. I don't think I want that pillow. What about this? And just to be able to complete a thought. And so I highly recommend what Don's saying about finding an army, finding people, the young girl down the street to come stay for a couple hours, your mom or your dad, or like you're trading off with another mom, and every other Wednesday you trade, whatever the system is that you build, we give you permission to take time away from your children, because when you do take time, either alone or with your spouse, then you will come back with more energy. And that's the key, is not only is it stopping your energy from going out in places it doesn't need to go, but also refilling your energy so that you have it.
Yeah, it's so important that we do so. It goes against the grain of what we think, which is what we're trying to do with all these thoughts today about how to fight for energy in your home. But because it doesn't seem like we have time. Or I know that I spent years feeling guilty when I did something for myself.
Oh, I think so many parents do. I mean, I know moms do too. I mean, yeah. I know we do.
Because I always, I was taught we were pursuing our kids and I was trying to be a good dad.
Yeah.
Trying to be a good husband.
Yeah.
And when I did things for myself, I always thought, you know what, I could be talking to my 3-year-old, or I could be doing the dishes right now, or I could be doing something. And there's almost a guilt feeling when I went out and worked out, or I went on a run, or I went, or I, took a day and didn't do anything or whatever. Hey, you know what? We got to get over that.
Once again, we give you permission. If you've got that track running in your head, it's from the enemy. It is not from. It's not an energy building thought process for you. And so we just encourage you to dismiss that and realize that the healthier, more relaxed, full of energy you are, the less stressed you are, then the better parent, spouse you're going to be.
Which is also kind of, as we kind of get towards the end of this podcast, we give you permission to say no. We give you permission to say yes to your own health. We also give you permission to say no to the things that don't align. You don't have to play every sport.
Right.
You don't have to do every church deal and parents, if you're the kind that is a doer and you get things done and you will get asked to do a lot in life. If the PTA or whatever that, we tend to find ourselves saying yes just all the time, and all of a sudden we're stressed and lack energy.
Yeah, I am acts of service, and we had a small church, and whenever anybody had a baby, then we would all do a meal train. And when we had babies, people brought us meals, and they were good. Oh yeah, the kids were all like, "Who's bringing us meal?" And so
let's have another baby.
For years and years, I did that, and it was by far the most stressful thing for me, because I had 4, 5, 6, 7 kids. I'm trying to get my own meal together, get us in, have an activity, prepare the meal, get it served there warm, figure out what they can or couldn't eat. And it was very stressful. And at some point in time, I realized that's a no for me. That's a no. I'm not ever doing that again.
And how guilty did you feel about that, thinking that you were not giving...
I still feel guilty. Like even today when I get a meal train thing, but today it's beautiful because you can just send a Grubhub thing, or you can send a gift card, or you can send something like that. But I would take their children for days over preparing them a meal. I'd go buy them diapers and wipes and clean the toilets if I needed to over preparing them a meal. And what it was, moms, I just want you to figure out, what's your no? What is it that puts you over the top? What's too much? Is it that one neighbor child that comes over all the time and ruins your house? I give you permission to say no.
Right.
You can only play outside with this child. I just give you, find your good no's and find your good yeses and use those. And I think you will be so surprised at the energy you will gain from that.
We did it a lot, especially as the kids got a little bit older, with seasons. And so we would look at each season. There's a fall,
right?
There's a winter, there's a spring, and there's a summer.
Yeah.
And we would say, for example, we knew our kids love basketball. So we just knew that
their dad loved basketball.
That's true. But our
it was
kids
good
did too.
training.
So from December to February was crazy for us. I mean,
so
so crazy. But and every season we go, we're not going to do this, but then we did it anyway. But that was it was okay. It was a season. Then the spring came. Well, the spring came. We had baseball, but it was
one or two or three baseball, not different. 6 and 5 and
But for us, as you go into seasons, we give you permission also to say no to things. Mm-hmm. And this kid is not going to play. Like, for example, we had a lot of kids. Our kids played one sport at a time.
Right.
So many kids, we're playing football and baseball in the fall.
Right.
No, we're not doing that. We're going to choose.
I would even say it's not good for your kid. I mean, it really is. It's even they are stressed out and they've got too much going on. I think kids need space to play.
Well, and that's a topic for another day, but it's also just that your family's different. You have certain things, and what we're saying is that with particular things like taking a meal or serving at church or whatever, but also just looking into it, kind of you set yourself up for success. You set yourself up to have energy or not, and by what you're choosing to do for a season. And if you're in the middle of it right now and you feel like, oh my goodness, I'm so stressed out, I also give you permission to say, hey, I got to take a break from this, because your kids don't need the bad you.
Yeah.
They need the good you. They need the one that's has energy. And when we do, it also just makes families so much more fun. It becomes what we call at Crazy Cool Family an upward spiral.
Right.
When you can bring energy, it actually makes family easier, which then brings more energy.
Right.
Because when you're having to nag your kids all the time, and when you're having to get on to them all the time, and you're having discipline problems and all those things, and it just creates stress, and that's such an energy drain versus if everybody is alive and going well and the relationships are clicking. It's just, it's such an energy lifter for you.
Yeah. And so as we wrap up this podcast, we just encourage you to take some time, maybe once you get the kids to bed or some evening, or maybe even go on a date, and list out what are your energy drainers? What are the things that are really difficult, like really hard? Maybe it is cleaning your house. Maybe that's one of the things that you just cannot get to. Then I just encourage you to see if you can find funds to have somebody help clean the house, even if it's just a young college girl who doesn't charge as much as a cleaning fee as a cleaning service does. Or maybe it's the lawn. I mean, Don's had the lawn done for seasons at a time in between when the boys couldn't do it or whatever, because that was an energy drain for him. He couldn't get to it, and it would grow up and it would be a nightmare. And so we found the funds for that along the way. And so I just encourage you to list out, where is your energy drainers? Maybe it's every day at 4:00. Okay, then maybe every day at 4:00 you put a program on for your kids, and you read a magazine, or you go just so find what it is that's draining your energy, and then go back there and put in things that will give you energy.
Yeah, and you may say, I don't have time for that. I don't know how to get that or whatever. But
you don't have time not to have time for that.
Yeah, exactly. And so just let me give you a couple of suggestions to do that. One of them is after bedtime. Right. Is to don't sit down and just veg out in front of the TV. Sit down and talk to your spouse, or or sit down and journal yourself. You may be tired, but it's okay. 30 minutes, and then also you can give each other a night.
Yeah, I like that.
You can say, hey, tonight I'm going to take care of the kids. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow night you're going to take care of the kids, and that way we've got some time to go. But when you go, you're going to go purpose to go think about, and then we're gonna, go on a date night, get a babysitter, be willing to do things where you leave your kids. Those are some suggestions you can do to try to get more energy into things. Because remember, let's finish where we started. You can't keep doing the same things and expect to have energy.
Right.
What are you going to do differently? Not try harder. I just need to have more energy. I'm just going to work harder to have more energy. I'm just going to will myself to have more energy. How's that going for you? Yeah, how's that going for you? So think of things you can do differently to bring energy in your home. Think of it in seasons, and also think of it in days and weeks.
Yeah.
To buy some ways and to buy some time and some different thought processes to bring energy into your home.
It's good.
And it is good, and we know that you will go and take part in that. When you're not going to let life run you over, because you're going to fight for your family, you're going to fight for energy. And so we want you to be crazy, energetic parents and go be crazy in that way. crazycoolfamily.com.